vision and beyond just promotion. You know, Joseph in the Old Testament, remember Joseph with the many-colored coat, Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat? It's not called the Technicolor Dreamcoat in the Bible. You should just know that. That's a Broadway play. Just if you ever get on, I don't know, some kind of quiz show or something, that's just for your information. But Joseph came to understand that his work and his purpose was not only about him, but that his work was for the Lord, that it was to give glory to God. But he didn't start off that way. If you think about Joseph, you know, Joseph was born into a family he was one of 12 brothers. And the time that he was born into, wealth was transferred through family lines. And the way it was done was the big, huge lion's share of all the wealth went from the father to the oldest son, and then everything else was shared amongst the other sons. And so Joseph was one of the youngest 2 sons in Jacob's family, and he had 10 brothers ahead of him, and his oldest brother would get half of everything, and then the rest of them would have to split it amongst themselves. Doesn't sound very fair, does it? Like if you're one of the younger kids and you woke up on Christmas morning and there were 150 presents for your oldest sibling and the rest of you had to share the rest, that would be horrible. But that's kind of what it was. It's like if you go to Thanksgiving dinner and your oldest sibling gets half the turkey and the rest of you have to share the rest of it. That's what it was like. That's how wealth was transferred. So the favor that Joseph had on his life, the favor that his father extended to him, was a threat to his brother's position and to their success, and it flew in the face of every good and proper rule about their society that they knew, and they hated him for it. They viewed him as real competition and a real threat. Back in that day, you might say that it was the ancient version of office politics, because that's kind of what it was. He was a threat to their success. And Joseph had this dream for his life. He had a dream for his life, and this dream was really given to him by God, and he went to his brothers while they were tending the sheep of the field, and against all good advice and all sound wisdom, Joseph thought, what a great idea. I'm going to tell my brothers my dream. And so he begins here in Genesis 37, verses 5 through 8. It says, now Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. Joseph, word of advice to you next time, shh. Don't say anything about your dreams to people. Sometimes it's good to keep those inside. But listen what he said. It says, he said to them, hear this dream that I have dreamed. Behold. Okay, when someone's dream starts off with behold. I was just like, oh, here we go. Joseph on a trail again of how awesome he is. Behold. We were all binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf alone arose and stood upright, and behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf. Isn't that awesome? No, it's not awesome. Your brothers don't think that is awesome, you yo-yo. What's wrong with you? They think that's terrible, don't you know? But Joseph didn't know. Because you know why? Joseph, even though he had a conviction of his purpose, and he had a conviction and a confidence in his gifts, and he had a God-ordained vision for his life, he didn't have readiness to walk in the fullness of everything that he was ordained to do. And there's a big difference between having a vision and a dream and a gifting and being ready to carry the weight of that gift and that vision. And Joseph's vision was from God. His dream was from God. It was in alignment with his convictions about who he was supposed to be. He thought it was just amazing, so amazing that his brothers would maybe get happy. I don't know. Was he, at the very worst, he was just immature and not very smart, not very wise, but at the worst, he could have been arrogant and needling, and he knew his brothers didn't have a coat of many colors. He might have been throwing that in their face. I don't know what his motivations were, but I can tell you that his actions displayed a lack of readiness to walk in everything that God really had for him to walk in. Because for one thing, Joseph thought from reading his words that this was all about him. This was all about his gift and his talent and his purpose. And he lacked self-awareness about what this would mean, how this would come off to his brothers by saying this dream to them. How would it sound to them for him to tell this dream? He totally didn't get it. And you know what? Self-awareness. This is what Joseph lacked. He lacked self-awareness. Do you know that self-awareness is the number it's one of the top 2 indicators of potential for promotion and growth. That's not me making that up from the Bible. That's actually that's a work thing, executive. When your bosses are looking for someone to promote, one of the things they're looking at is how self-aware you are. That means that they're looking to see if you are aware of your moods. They're looking to see if you're aware of your emotions and how you're projecting them into the environment. They're looking to see if you're aware of how your attitudes about yourself impact those you work with. They're looking to see if you have the ability to harness your emotions, harness your attitudes, and use them strategically to connect with people, or if we have to take care of you when you come in the workplace and you cast a net of angst around you and anxiety, and we all have to walk around it. Make sure we don't step on your toes. All right? It's hard to work with people like that. Now, you might not, maybe you're hitting up against some invisible fences in your job. Maybe you're hitting up against some barriers in your life, and where you see yourself being what you know is on the inside of you, what you know you're capable of, you can never seem to get traction there. It's like you get so far and boom, man, something always stops me here. Something always it hits me here. I mean, maybe you've got maybe that's a blind spot. That's what self-awareness is. It's getting rid of your blind spots. And for me, I had to go and sit down and ask some people, you know what? I feel like I'm hitting up against some invisible fences here. It's like whenever you put something like those invisible fences with a dog and they have the little thing on their neck, and when they get up close, it shocks them a little bit. I didn't get the shock, but I couldn't go. And I had to ask some people, and do I have a blind spot? I keep hitting up against these fences. I can't gain traction. And it's good to ask not just people who you are overseeing, but people who oversee you, people who work alongside you. And get alone with God and prepare your heart. And ask people who care about you. Because people who care about you will give that feedback to you in a way you can receive. But I had to do that in my own life. And even about my messages, like Stovall's going to give me feedback on my message today. But I want that, because I can't become a better speaker if he doesn't give me feedback on it. I don't want blind spots. Y'all aren't going to all come up to me and critique my message. Hope you're not. It's okay. Don't worry. Someone's doing that for you, so it's good. You can be confident. You don't need to do that. Got a team. That's awesome. But you know what? If I wouldn't allow that in my life, I couldn't grow. I couldn't grow as a speaker. I couldn't grow as a leader. So if you're finding yourself bumping up against some invisible fences in your life, man, maybe you should ask. Joseph had some invisible fences, but he wasn't open to people talking to him about them. And he just kept running roughshod. He didn't understand. He wasn't ready to wear his father's favor, so he wore it recklessly. He wasn't ready to rule, and so he just tried to step into authority that he wasn't ready to have yet. He should have kept silent and put that before God. Sometimes we need to keep things in our heart and let God work it out. But Joseph didn't do that. But dreams have a way of being developed. Not usually fun, but it happens. It happens that dreams are often developed through pain. And Joseph had some growth points in his life. I like to call them his underground moments, because twice in his life, Joseph was at the top, and then he went way down, all the way to the bottom. And then he went all the way to the top again, and then he went all the way down back to the bottom. Both times, he went underground. Jesus had some things to say about going underground. Jesus said, unless a seed falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it goes into the ground and dies, then it bears much fruit. The thing is, seeds alone are not very useful. Think about a seed packet. We've all seen seeds. Eat an apple, there's seeds inside. What do you do with the seeds when you're done? Throw them away, right? The thing about seeds is they can either end up in the garbage and become trash, or they can turn into an orchard. All depends on whose hand they fall into. Some people don't see the potential in seeds, so they toss them. Some people look at a seed and see an orchard, and they plant it, and they allow it to go underground, where nobody sees it, where it has pressure, where it has hiddenness, where it's not bearing fruit. But the point of seeds is not the seed. The point of seeds is the tree. The point of seeds is the fruit. And in the same way, the seeds of your dreams that God's given to you, the point is not the dream. The point is not you alone. If your dreams are fully developed, if the purpose in you is fully developed, if God's potential in you is fully developed, it becomes big enough to carry, feed, and nurture the dreams of others. That's what developed dreams do. They take us beyond ourselves, and they bring glory and worship to God. But dreams have to go underground to develop, and Joseph had to go into a pit to develop. His brothers hated him so bad for these dreams. He had another one, stupid, went back and told him again, didn't learn the first time, went back and told him this other dream about not just them, but now their mom and dad are going to bow down. They had it. Now, not you, just you, but mom and dad are going to bow down to me too. It's going to be awesome. Isn't it great? Everyone's going to worship me. And they're like, no, we're done with you. We're going to kill you, and we're done. So luckily, his older brother steps up and goes, hey, man, let's don't kill him, guys. Let's just throw him in a pit and sell him to these slave traders, and he'll go to Egypt, and we'll be done with him. They're like, great plan. So they send him off to Egypt, right, from the pit. Joseph, who was once at the top, promoted without reason, favored without reason, had not had to ever prove himself before in his life, just loved, just given privilege, now finds himself, everything's lost. And all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, I've got to prove myself. I've got to rise up. I've got to trust God. This isn't just, I'm not just flying by the seat of my coattails because people like me anymore. This is about work. This is about who am I going to be, deciding the kind of person I'm going to be. And the Bible doesn't tell us what happens from the pit to Potiphar's house, but we can be sure that there was a journey and that there was development. Because the next time we see Joseph, he isn't a slave from a pit anymore. He is in charge of all of Potiphar's house. Every single thing that Potiphar owned in his region, he put under Joseph's care so he could just go play golf all day. He had got the right guy in place.